Welcome to the Geek in Review, the podcast focused on innovative and creative ideas in the legal industry. I'm Marlene Gabauer.
And I'm Greg Lambert. And this week we are welcoming in a couple of return guests and a new one, but we're really excited to talk about a new collaboration, a new team that's being formed on the forefront of innovation in the legal tech industry. So first up, we have with us Nikki Shaver, the co-founder and CEO at Legal Tech Hub. I think we've had you on to talk about it. It's a comprehensive platform dedicated to providing critical insights and resources for the legal technology market. And Nikki has been instrumental in driving the platform's growth and expanding its reach within the industry.
And next joining us is Jeroen Plink, the co-founder and COO of Legal Tech Hub. Jeroen brings a wealth of experience in legal technology, having previously led several successful ventures and initiatives aimed at transforming legal services through innovative tech solutions.
Hey, Jeroen, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And finally, we have with us Cheryl Wilson Griffin, who is the founder of Legal Tech Consultants and now a key leader within the newly expanded Legal Tech Hub team. Cheryl's extensive expertise in legal technology consulting has been pivotal in guiding numerous firms through the complexity of legal tech adoption and optimization. Cheryl, we're happy to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
So we asked the three of you on the show to discuss the recent acquisition of Legal Tech Consultants by Legal Technology Hub and to discuss your vision for the future of legal technology consulting. Nikki and Jeroen, what were the primary motivations behind the acquisition of Legal Tech Consultants? And how does this acquisition align with Legal Technology Hub's long-term strategic goals?
We had known Cheryl for a long time. Cheryl's a dear friend to all of us at Legal Tech Hub, and we have been watching what she's doing with Legal Tech Consultants and admired it enormously from afar, but then also closer and closer. We started having conversations some time ago, not initially with the eye towards an acquisition, but more because we realized there was so much synergy between what we were doing in the market already and what Cheryl was doing. Cheryl's advisory work with early stage startups was a nice entry point for the advisory and consulting work we were already doing with companies that were more mature in the market. So we started sending work to one another and having conversations around potentially putting together almost an accelerator or an incubator that would take companies from really early stage through to later stage and even exit. And when we realized we were having a lot of these conversations, it seemed to make a ton of sense to just combine our forces and come together under one umbrella.
And also because our names are so similar, it was so much
I was
easier to
thinking
put the
that.
two together. Yeah, but it's serious. I think adding Cheryl's clients on the consulting side to our already existing customers on the consulting side made a ton of sense. We've been, and in particular to vendors and a few law firms providing advisory services ever since we started. The two combined made a lot of sense. And then finally, the other thing that made a lot of sense was to have Cheryl join us with the view to building out content aimed at legal technology vendors, helping them in a more concerted effort to provide them with the know-how to run their business effectively. I think between us, we have well over 60 years of experience running legal tech companies.
Jeroen, that makes us sound ancient.
Share that. I know it does. It's me. I'm the oldest here, so I mentioned.
Well, it helps that Nikki and Cheryl were 12 when they founded the company. So
Yeah, very kind.
Well,
Greg.
I wanted to follow up on that. So this seems kind of unique. I mean, basically advising sort of the vendors that sort of play on your platform. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about like what is it that you do for them to get them in front of the right audiences and saying the right things? Well, I think that having been a legal tech buyer for many years on the law firm side, I got to see a lot of startups over the years. And as I'm sure you both know, they're not all prepared to be in the market that they're in. They're not prepared to play necessarily with the big law firms, but they want to be there. And so as I've been working with them over the last several years, what I've really been focused on is helping get them ready for the real world and bringing to them those insights that you can't necessarily read in a report or find anywhere on the internet about how law firms judge products, how procurement works, how security works, how even budget levels work within law firm environments. And as a result, I think what we get for that is my goal is that we all get a better legal tech ecosystem. That companies are better prepared to meet the market's needs and are able to do so faster and at a more efficient pace. So that's really where I've been focusing.
Yeah, and I assume you saw there was kind of a lack of assistance for these vendors to catch up on that. Is that what you saw?
There's
Correct.
really not much out there, not a ton out there in the law firm environment or in the in-house corporate legal environment. I don't know if anybody knows this, but the legal industry tends to be pretty quiet about what it's up to, right? And what its rules are and what product lines are. And so if you're not kind of in the in crowd, it can be really hard to find those resources. You right?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think we're the only ones that actually combine years of experience working within the law firms and in-house departments and helping the vendors understand the buying cycle. I've spent most of my career on the vendor side, and so we're always talking about the sales cycle. But it took my 2.5 years and the many years that Nikki and Cheryl spent in law firms to actually understand it's not about the sales cycle, it's about the buying cycle. How do firms and in-house departments buy? And what does it mean if you think you've sold to them and they go quiet? What are the minimum requirements you need from a security perspective or a GDPR perspective? And we can help with that. And that's leveraging our joint experience on the vendor side. We are sort of like your board member with years of experience in the legal tech industry without occupying necessarily a board seat at your company. But we can actually, we've been there, we've seen it all. We can talk to you about pricing. We can talk to you about strategic transactions, your fundraising, and most importantly, products.
And we have Chris
So-
Ford on board as well, who does consulting too. And so between us, we have a really nice set of skills and expertise that we can bring to bear around going to market in new markets or going to market for the first time for Cheryl's early stage clients, building a sales pipeline, and all the way through to Jeroen's expertise around funding and exits. And so it's a really nice, I think, offering for vendors who, as Jeroen said, really don't have many places in the market to turn to when they're seeking advice on how to do this well or how to do it better.
I'm wondering if you sort of curate certain types of vendors or if it's really more they're coming to you. Yeah, well, for me, I mean, I think as kind of a small business, I've been out kind of chasing. And so obviously I'm looking at for companies and technologies that are exciting to me as a former buyer, right? But not necessarily rejecting anyone. I think that there's lots of companies that need help out there. But I think for my immediate passion is to chase things that I would have wanted to buy as a buyer.
So, Cheryl, let me turn to you and get your side of the story. What exactly attracted you to working with Legal Tech Hub in the first place, and then making the decision to kind of combine your efforts officially? And then once you get that, let me ask you, what kind of changes do you see this doing to affect the client side of your work as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think Nikki and Jeroen and Chris were huge draws for me, of course, as we had relationships for some time. I've actually been following Nikki since her early days at Paul Hastings when I was still on the firm side. And so as an opportunity to get to work alongside her was something I was very excited about. But I think too, it really makes this new super dream team of a group when we all come together that brings kind of that full, there's not a lot of folks who can bring you the entire law firm side, the entire corporate side, the entire vendor side between us all. And we all kind of have different strengths. So the opportunity to join up and really expand what I was able to do and also support and expand what they've already done so successfully just was really beyond exciting for me. Jeroen hit on it, really focusing on developing more content, I think, for the vendors is really one of the big priorities. I'm trying to get all the things that are in here and in Nikki's head and Jeroen's head out into a resource that we can share with our clients. And then the clients that have come with me, I think, have already been very excited to get to talk or start working with Nikki and Jeroen, because we really are approaching this from a team kind of mindset. So I'm curious, when there's an acquisition made, like, how does that integration work? And once that happens, what is your roadmap and your plan to integrate legal tech consultants' existing offerings into Legal Technology Hub's offerings, and sort of what does that sort of comprehensive platform look like to you?
I think this is quite different from your typical acquisition. This was not Thomson Reuters buying Practical Law or something like that. It was these were two growing companies where one joined the other. Our services on the consulting side were extremely complementary. And so integrating Cheryl's clients into her business is quite natural from a client perspective. What they notice is more people inputting. So where Cheryl would do a consulting call on her own, the client benefits from having Nikki on board for product-related questions, Chris Ford on board for marketing, and me for the other part, like strategy and sales. That's one part of it. The other part is we had a very exciting agenda on the content side for vendors. We just have more people to work on that. One thing I want to emphasize is this is in addition to all the work we're doing with law firms and in-house departments. That content is already there. Cheryl has actually in the past contributed to some of the content. She's an existing expert on legal project management applications. Cheryl will work across all three aspects of our existing business.
And I will say one of the things that matters a lot for any acquisition or partnership of this kind is culture and the fit of the people. And I think that was really important to us as well. So we had actually worked with Cheryl a little bit before in a few different senses and knew that Cheryl's energy level is super high, which is very much in keeping with the energy and culture of our business. And also that we all just gel as people and we all have the same excitement and enthusiasm and passion for the legal tech industry, which we convey as well to the work that we do on a day-to-day basis. So that has worked out really well already, I would say. I mean, it's really been, I don't want to jinx it, but it's been pretty seamless thus far. And I think also for clients probably because it's not a disruption to suddenly have new people. They are people who have the same kind of approach and the same kind of energy. In terms of future, I also just want to mention when it comes to vendors and our approach there around advisory, I do think we offer something unique, not just because of the different viewpoints that we bring, but because of the way we offer advisory services. So vendors can buy in a number of different ways, which appeals to companies of different sizes and different financial depths, let's say. And that's something I think that's also quite unique to us. We understand their position in the market and we make it easy to access really high quality expertise at a price point and a level that they're able to afford.
Yeah. And Cheryl, you already knew Chris Ford, right? So you knew his personality and sense of humor before you joined?
Yeah.
And she still decided to join. So yeah.
Yes.
He's already made up like 12 nicknames for me. It's amazing. Yeah.
I think the good thing is there's now a competition between Cheryl and Chris, who's the funniest.
Ah,
And I think Cheryl is a good contestant for that one.
yeah.
I was gonna
oh, good.
ask Nikki, like I would imagine your law firm clients also appreciate this service that you're offering the vendors because, again, like you're saying, a lot of them don't kind of have this access and understanding about what they need to do, how they need to do it. And I think that would help the conversation with firms go a lot more smoothly overall.
Absolutely. I think it benefits everyone in the ecosystem, to Cheryl's point earlier. We want vendors out there who are educated on how to approach and talk to and sell to law firms and who understand that it's important to build relationships and that it's important to really delight your customer and what kinds of security requirements they'll have to meet. That kind of thing is really important. Otherwise, law firms' time is wasted as well. So we do think it's an asset to the firms too. At the same time, it allows us even deeper insight into what's happening in the market. So we speak to so many vendors on a regular basis, and we speak to so many firms on a regular basis. And that kind of discussion, it helps both sides in a way, because we're able to inform people about what's coming down the pipeline, for example.
Mm. And so combining, the LTH and the LTC together, I imagine that when everything is said and done, that you're hoping that this combination is greater than the individual sums that were put in. What kind of additional offerings or new services do you envision that, bringing these two companies together now allows you to do that neither one of you might have been able to do individually?
Oh, there's lots of interesting stuff, but I might throw this to your own so we don't reveal anything top secret.
I don't think there's
No
not
scoops
too
today?
much.
No scoops today? Come on.
No, I think the most important part is continuing to build our consulting practice. And I think we each make unique contributions to the consulting part, and that enhances our ability to deliver advisory work to a greater group of potential customers. The second part is adding on the content side, helping early stage startups understand what the buying cycle is in a law firm. I will have debates. Do you go around the buying mechanism and approach the partners, or do you go to purchasing central in a law firm? And I know we have differing views on that. So I think having those discussions out in the open and contribute to that discussion will help.
I want to mention there's some things in the works that we will wait to announce, but one of our approaches is kind of productizing some of the consulting work as well to make it more accessible. So that's something that I think will be really interesting to people. And of course, what I mentioned previously about discussions that had already been ongoing with Cheryl about an accelerator of sorts or an incubator of sorts, those discussions are ongoing as well.
So, Cheryl, this question is for you. Actually, there's two questions also. I'm going to divide it up though. But, this is very early days, right? What would you say are like your three immediate priorities?
Oh, one is to figure out where all the bodies are in Legal Tech Hub, right? I mean, it's just like integrating for any new organization. It's just figuring out like how to work, where the things are, right? So that's kind of a business and administrative priority. But I think from a how we grow priority, I think, we have so many great resources for the law firms and the corporate side of the universe inside Legal Tech Hub. My vision would be that we have a beautiful library like that for our vendor side as well. And so that's going to be definitely somewhere where I'll be focusing. And we're thinking about everything from security and privacy and really how to approach them in a way that's bite-sized for startups to like the buying cycle is so hilariously an important conversation because almost every time I talk to a startup, they have a general, complete misunderstanding of how this is going to go for them. And so there's lots of fun there. I think too, really working with one of the other groups of my business is mid-sized law firms. And so, those folks traditionally have not been able to afford innovation. That's really only been big firm stuff. And so I'm doing some fractional work, and obviously we'll be bringing in the folks from LTH into working with those mid-sized firms, really getting a feel for what are their struggles, also what are their opportunities that maybe the bigger firms who can't turn as quickly can take advantage of. And so we'll also be kind of focused on building out resources in that space too, that really targets and speak to those specific needs of that size firm. So I think those are kind of things I'm excited to dig into ASAP and have already been working on.
That's great because that seems like it's kind of an untapped market in this regard.
And
You-
I will just add to that briefly, Marlene, to say mid-sized is really a priority for us as well. And so that was another way in which we aligned. We work with large law all the time, and that will continue, but we really want to also provide resources to mid-sized who just are depleted in terms of what they currently have. So for any listeners out there, take note. If you need help, we're here.
Yeah. And Nikki, can you define mid-size? What's the size that you put in that
That is-
list?
That is a discussion we have had internally, and we've revised our definition since Cheryl came on board. So I'm going to throw to Cheryl.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd say mid-size going up to around 150 lawyers. And so what I happen to notice there over the last couple of years is there's some really interesting changes in both the staff they have available and the technology that they buy and use at that 150 point. Over that, they tend to be, everybody's using iManagement docs. It's like the same things. Under that, you see a bigger variety of different tech stacks, of the types of people that are employed. And that creates its own kind of unique challenges.
The 2020 up to around 150.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And that's
So, Cheryl, you kind of answered my second question, but maybe there's some additional things that you can add to it. So, we've talked about you coming in and the help that you're going to give to some of these newer types of startups. But how do you envision leveraging your expertise to benefit a new set of clients and creating content for them?
I think that was one of the things that was so exciting about joining up with Legal Tech Hub. It really allowed me to expand who I could work with and who I could bring value to. I think that even with my kind of mostly smaller startup piece, there are things that I can bring to the other Legal Tech Hub clients that are maybe a little bit more mature. Perhaps they're bringing a new product to market and I can bring some value there to existing clients. And then I think expanding and making sure that we're engaged with the entire legal tech ecosystem, and both on the law firm side, the corporate side, and on the startup side, or on the vendor side, I think will allow us to kind of see more around the corner, right? Because there's a lot of insights you can learn from speaking to different people, and then obviously bring those insights back to the benefit of all of our clients.
And just to be clear, I think your experience is all across the stack, right? You've worked at a big law firm, you've worked at a big tech company, and you've worked with a large number of startups. So your expertise extends across the stack.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you got to say that, let's say, it's just where I've been lately.
Well, before I get to the crystal ball question, I did have one other thing because I understand you guys knew each other and this worked out really well, but I can't imagine it's just been completely smooth sailing. So I'm just curious from the aspect, because I know there's a lot of companies that are very similar to what you guys are. There's a handful of startups that you've got a great idea, getting off the ground, getting started. What kind of things, if other people are thinking about doing acquisitions for these types of companies, has there been anything that kind of caught you off guard in doing the acquisition, or something that was a little more challenging than you thought it might be?
Not really, actually. I mean, I've been involved in quite a few M&A transactions, mostly on the sales side lately, but I must say from a process perspective and an integration perspective, it has all been smooth sailing. And one of the things we really enjoy working with Cheryl is that where we had gaps, she's capable of filling them. And a very practical example is we knew how to work with a tool like HubSpot, but Cheryl is really a HubSpot wizard and can dive in very deep and fix things that we've been trying to fix for a long time. And hey, there's Cheryl to the rescue.
So
That's
it
great.
is nice having another set of eyes to come in and experiences coming in to kind of assist with things that
I
you
will-
may not even have thought.
100%. But I will say, Greg, to your point, I'm sure these kinds of things can be difficult. I think often when they are difficult, it might be that cultural thing. So the piece of advice I would have for people is take it slow. There's no need to jump in right away. Cheryl and I and Cheryl and Jeroen and Cheryl and Chris, we all talked for a long time and met up at conferences. And, we really built a relationship and we're very certain on both sides that this was going to work before we pulled the trigger. So I think that would be my advice. Just take your time, make sure that the cultural fit as well, because other things don't matter nearly as much.
Gotcha. All right.
We
Well,
make
now's
it
the crystal ball time. And so I'll toss this out there and see who wants to take it. If one or more of you want to take it. Over the next 2 to 5 years, what do you guys see as a challenge or a change that's going to happen in the industry that you think you guys can adjust and adapt for? Don't everybody speak at once.
Who wants to be first?
I mean, age first, I think, Jeroen.
No. Seniority first. Nikki, you're the CEO. And
Yes.
I'm happy to take it, but I think it's not my place. It's Nikki's place, actually.
I would just say, I guess one thing that's been top of mind for me, so this is the one I'm going to go with, is the landscape around legal technology is changing so dramatically. And I think that is anxiety provoking for both law firms and vendors. And on the law firm side, it's increasingly messy. The new AI solutions do many things, not just one thing. That's ultimately a good thing if you can buy into fewer solutions. But at the moment, law firms already have, and corporate legal departments already have licenses. And now when they're investing in AI, it's creating a landscape of significant overlap. And I think there will be a lot of work to do to help people navigate that. And on the vendor side, it's a similar problem, which is, what should we change up what we do? Like there are companies pivoting, right? So I just think it's increasingly messy. And I think that will continue for a number of years before things settle again. And I think we are very well placed to help both buy side and vendor side navigate that over the next few years.
Yeah, I think I'll go with the same theme, actually. So the first business I started was a business that we ultimately sold to Practical Law. And I think the thing we had wrong there was timing. The timing couldn't have been worse to set up a legal tech startup. And I think we've got timing on our side right now. So everything is changing. I think the things that we've been talking about for 20 years, change is going to happen. I think we're there. And that comes with a massive benefit for people like us who are here to help educate the market on what all this means and how you can best, as a law firm or an in-house legal department, deal with the change that's coming towards you. But it also makes it complicated. It's going to be increasingly hard for companies like ourselves to be on top of the development and understanding the implications. And I think that's going to be our biggest challenge, but also opportunity at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I think my crystal ball looks very similar, although maybe slightly different. I think, we've spent the last 20 years telling lawyers that, no, that's not possible. Great idea. That's not possible. But now we have to revisit all those decisions given to new state technology, right? A lot of the things that previously weren't possible are now possible. So I think one of the things that I think we're going to see a change in is the creativity of lawyers and their ability to bring that creativity forward. If you think about some of the use cases in generative AI, right, there's very obvious ones, document review, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of things that make a ton of sense to automate and to use AI with. But I think the really exciting stuff over the next couple of years is going to come from lawyers who have these really creative insights about where there's a problem to solve and how we might solve it. And hopefully working with people like us to help think that through.
Well, let me put a postscript on this with a question. One of the things that I've joked about when I talk with vendors about the sales/buy cycle with law firms, with it being extremely long and complicated and can be difficult. The flip side to that is that I always say it's very, very difficult to get into a law firm, but on the other side, it's almost even harder to get kicked out of a law firm. I'm wondering, do you see one, if the sales cycle or if the buy cycle it becomes a little bit more in line with what other industries do you also see that affecting the backside as well, where firms will be much quicker to pull the trigger on getting rid of things that don't work?
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I hope so too. I was in a conversation with a firm recently who called it the great consolidation, and they didn't mean in the market, they meant at their firm, looking at what they had, reviewing things. And we ran some surveys towards the end of last year, early this year. Almost 100% of firms, when asked, said that they were planning over the next year to review their tech stack. So I do think this is a time when firms are going to move faster to get rid of things where they recognize that they're no longer necessary, or vendors haven't moved quickly enough to update solutions and there are better ones in the market.
yeah, I mean, the years I spent inside the big firms trying to get rid of a technology, even when we all agreed that we should, was one of those bone-crushing, life-changing, terrible situations. And so I think you're right. I think that people will be a little more eager to move. And I think part of that will be there's money to spend elsewhere, right? There's new opportunities to take advantage of, and every dollar you're spending on something you're not using, the dollar out the door that you can't use on something fun.
Well, Nikki, Jeroen, and Cheryl, I want to thank all three of you coming on and talking about the combination of Legal Tech Hub and Legal Tech Consulting under the new the Legal Tech Hub banner now. So thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you,
so much.
Marlene and Greg.
And of course, thanks to all of you, our listeners, for taking the time to listen to the Geek and Review podcast. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a colleague. We'd love to hear from you, so reach out to us on LinkedIn. Nikki, Jeroen, Cheryl, is there any particular place you'd like to point listeners to learn more or reach out to you?
Legal technology.
www.legal. Yes, that's right. We
So
we have to
excited to
practice
see-
our we have to practice our syncing.
We do.
Legaltechhub.com is the best location.
Okay, great. And as always, the music you hear is from Jerry David DeSica. So thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry. All right, Marlene, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.